Alright, so I think it's a no-brainer if you saw the title right now that I'm talking about Final Fantasy VII and the first impressions that will come along with it. I just want to give some background story in terms of my experience with Final Fantasy VII. Obviously, I only played like a small portion. I won't lie and say I'm the biggest Final Fantasy VII fan. I think I got all the way to the part where you meet Earth for the first time, which is obviously not really that long into the game. I got through the train sequence, and honestly, I really did enjoy what I played of that game for the little portion that I experienced with it. I need to go back and finally beat the game, but I am familiar with the characters. You know, they did turn Final Fantasy VII into a meta series. They had like Dirge of Cerberus, they had all the other sort of spin-off games, they had the movie, which was Avid Children. So I mean, it's a no-brainer that you should be familiar with this lore, in particular for Final Fantasy VII. If you are a fan of Final Fantasy in general, you could like other games, you probably think that Final Fantasy VII is overrated. It's all subjective, it's all opinionated. Either way, I think my experience with this overall arc of Final Fantasy VII has been great. I hope that Square actually does take their time and apply this to other remakes within the series. Particularly the one that seems to stand out the most is 6. People really want that to come back. Either way, I digress. I did play a little bit of it. I know Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, the works. I played this remake, and honestly, there's the whole philosophy of the combat being changed from turn-based to action RPG. Now, unlike tank controls and fixed camera, I do think there still is a place for turn-based games. I really do think that like games like Persona and all that other stuff that has been coming out that has been fun still has a place in the mainstream media. And really, it's still fun. It's still a fun experience. I played Grandia 2 just recently before I lost my fucking save file. I played that recently and I was like, man, I really enjoyed Grandia 1. Grandia 2 is an amazing experience. It's still holds up today, and they went with the action RPG route with Final Fantasy VII Remake. And honestly, I really don't think it's the worst thing in the world. As we go into the gameplay segment, I do think there is a few problems with the combat, but first and foremost, like, the combat does feel great. It doesn't feel like Final Fantasy 15. It doesn't feel like overly complicated or convoluted, or it feels like the engine is about to choke to death. It feels actually really fun and streamlined. Since it's streamlined combat here, and we're mostly like just pressing buttons to win, some of the weaker normal soldiers that you fight in the game are cannon fodder. Honestly, you just slice through them, no problem. You can use like the differing moves between switching Cloud Sword to Operator mode, which is the fast like light attacks that you can do when you're pressing the square button, and then you switch over to the Punisher mode, which is the heavier attacks, and you can also parry, which is a nice little bonus given to the player. There's also like tactical mode as well, and this stops time a little bit so you can assess your moves and understand what exactly you're going to press as a function, and I really did like that. You know, the tactical mode also allows you to have your allies in a party do moves while you plan out other attacks as your sole character, and I also liked that as well. I thought that was pretty good. Again, I think that the whole slow-mo thing, I think that could have been dumbed down just a little bit, maybe even include a harder mode, because one of the things I found out about Final Fantasy VII Remake was that the game can be a bit too easy against those normal cannon fodder enemies, and I do think that, you know, a little bit more challenge would do, and I think that the most challenge came from the Scorpion boss that you fight near the end of the stage. Once you finally got down his pattern though, he's not really the worst boss in the world, but man, that was really exhilarating to have that challenge there, to use magic attacks against him to weaken him, just like the original game. There's all the normal stuff that you would expect, like limit breaks. The limit breaks come back where you could do like a very devastating special move to an enemy and you can do some crippling damage. There's also the ATB, or active time battle system, where you can basically, it's like you can't spam your magic all the time. You can't just do it. You have like 2 blue bars bars that build up over time as you make attacks and moves, and then once that blue bar builds up, you can use that to do a special move, or even do like some healing, or do something with your magic, or revive a teammate with the Phoenix down. It's all the stuff implemented in a more sort of real-time, concise manner in this action RPG format. I did say that this game was a bit too easy, but considering that it's real time, it does make you think a lot on your feet with the action RPG mindset. I'm just hoping that the whole game correlates to this mindset of thinking fast, or we will kick your ass, with the enemies adapting to your movesets, with the enemies being of higher rank or higher levels than you, since it's an action RPG, and we should have that sort of ability to tackle challenges head on, or wait until we grind and level up and we get that experience and we take that enemy out, and have these bosses where it's like, you know, they are these giant spectacle battles where we have to adapt to their patterns as well, and we also have to figure out what kind of weaknesses these bosses have, because that's what makes a RPG interesting, to find out if a boss has a weakness, to find out if a boss does a status effect, which is also like really cool. I think we saw like status effects in the demo. There was the stagger status effect for the bosses and the enemies, where if you stagger an enemy, you get a little bit more damage. You have that window to do just a little bit more while they get back up and they come after you. So I really did, you know, think that was also a pretty unique idea, and I hope that stuff like poisoning the player or putting status effects on the player will keep the gameplay a lot more diverse in choice as you try to heal yourself or scramble to save a teammate under pressure. And that Scorpion boss did keep the players under pressure. It definitely kept me under pressure. I definitely did lose Barrett a couple of times, fam. I lost that dude a couple of damn times, and I just got like, I just said, fuck, man, come on, I gotta figure this out. Ultimately, I did figure it out, and it was gratifying and rewarding at the end of the day. And once you have that sort of mindset as well, I think that would be good. It just needs to be sporadic, yet it needs to be rewarding at the same time. And now we got to move on to what is the two modes in the game. Well, a few modes actually, when we come to like the difficulty spectrum here. And it was classic mode, which was, you know, like, it's supposed to be like an ATB centered, easy, automatic, from DMC like mode, where they are trying to harken back to the old days where you don't have that much player control. And it really is a bad mode. I really don't like classic mode in this game. If you're a sort of turn-based enthusiast, you will probably hate this mode. I'm sorry, it's not going to appeal to you. You're better off playing the game on normal and trying to get something out of it, because classic mode did not do it for me. Like I said, it's basically Devil May Cry's easy automatic mode, where each and every single input is mostly done by the computer. They do all the fancy combos for you. You just walk into an enemy, you press a button, and it's over. That's it. That's all classic mode is, and since it's set to easy, it's not really good anyway, so I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna skip easy, and I'm gonna go right to normal, and the normal sort of standard difficulty worked for me. I wish it was a hard mode, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. Hey Square, patch that into the game, because I need a little bit more variety in my life. I think Crisis Core had hard mode, am I not too mistaken on that? I don't know. Yes, it did. I was right. 2-second Google search. Kiss my ass. I was right. Anyway, instead of having fun with that, we're gonna move on to, you know, the overall presentation and voice acting, which is here in my notes, by the way, in the background that you don't see. The overall presentation was awesome. It's not much to say. It looks good. The game looks good, it runs crisp. It's not 60 FPS, but the game is a timed exclusive anyway, so if you feel like waiting for PC and getting the 60 FPS version, just wait a year until you get it, till next April in 2021, and you'll be good. You'll be set from there. But the game looks very, very awesome. It looks better than I expected, honestly. And you know, you see those old trailers and it's like just the hype, the anticipation, all that just builds up, and seeing them replay those old scenes with new dialogue and sort of like harkening back to particular situations that happened in the older games being done by like fully voiced actors is awesome. It's cool. This part of the presentation really shines. I might have a little bit of gripes with the gameplay being a little bit too easy, but I really cannot say say that the presentation did not kill it in this department. Hats off to all the actors involved. Hats off to the, screenwriters, the game writers, everything. You guys did a fantastic job. Just the ongoing banter between Cloud and Barrett is hilarious. The way he tells Barrett to seek help after hearing the voices of the Mako reactor or the voices of the planet scream to him in some way. I really enjoyed that interaction so much. I'm not gonna lie, like I said, I've been enjoying a lot here, but the presentation is fine. I have no issues with it at all. I guess some people might say, well, they didn't get George Newbern back as Sephiroth, but let's see what happens. Let's delve deeper into the game before we, go off the deep end and whatnot. Honestly, I really did have fun with this game despite the difficulty and the sort of like button mashing nature of some of the moves and combos. I just hope that they do introduce those situations where you're kept on your toes and it's not like you're just wading through and it's an easy experience. I hope it's not like that at all. I guess for those people that are like gamers that aren't well versed in the action RPG genre, if you don't want to get something like a Neo where that requires a little bit more skill, you can get this game. It's an easy live stream type game where you're not struggling and being frustrated, something like Sekiro. I don't want it to be too hard. I just don't want it to be a total breeze when the main game comes out. I want there to be just a little bit more of the tactics involved in the combat. When you're fighting that scorpion boss, those tactics really come in where you gotta like attack his leg or grenade his leg off or heal your partner or put in a phoenix down or do something to keep that sort of animosity off your back, and I hope more of that occurs in the game. Now we're gonna talk about the philosophy of people that are really getting mad and angry and complaining about this game being way too hard. Final Fantasy VII Remake, the demo is not that hard. I mean, if you're having problems, I don't know what to tell you. There are lower difficulty modes, so if you have those issues, just play on classic mode. I don't like classic mode, but it is there for you. And then the final thing I gotta talk about is the philosophy of this game being sold at $60 despite not being completed. Now this only extends to Midgar, right? Midgar is like a small portion of the game. Even, like I said, I haven't played the first one that much, but I do know of the other areas and the Wutai Islands and all that where you meet Yuffie. I know about all that stuff. I don't know if people can read. If they didn't, then I'm pretty sure they talked about this being a multi-part type of experience before, so it feels like some people just now found that out, which I think is ridiculous because the original Final Fantasy VII was a 3-disc game anyway, so it came complete, but it's still a big experience no matter what, regardless. And I think this base game for PS4 is going to be like 2 discs, which is crazy. I think the way they have to do this is they have to price out everything decently, and what I mean by that is maybe the other two parts should be lower in price, and that will mitigate the anger and the frustration of people saying that yes, this is a full $60 game and we're not getting the complete full experience of said game. It just depends on what they add and what is deep, and if it feels like a full $60 game despite Midgard being a small portion, and if it's not just padded out filler, then I don't mind that. I totally would justify playing and seeing how this game is if it really does feel like a full $60 experience until we get to the next part. I just hope that it doesn't create that dangerous sort of precedent where it's like, okay, we can half-ass it, we could put in side missions, we could put in filler, but we're not going to simply say, this should be discounted, or we have to wait for another part that's going to take like 6 to 8 years just to finish. And I think it's just the waiting. I think the reason they put this out was because they knew that fans had this sort of desire to play the game anyway. They also restarted development. They scrapped the idea of having CyberConnect 2 being the forefathers of the combat, and then they went back and did it themselves. I think it's just Square being like, okay, we know that during this whole development process we really need to iron this out. We really need to make people see that this is going to be something special, because the hype from Kingdom Hearts didn't really seem to be lived up to at the end of the day, and I think they needed to compensate here, so they decided to make this the first part of a multi-part experience, and then over time I guess we'll get like the rest of the entire hub world, which is honestly probably going to be bigger than part 1 ever was when it comes to Final Fantasy VII. So you could think of this differently with certain principles. You could think, I'm getting like 2 full $60 games and I'm gonna be good. Or you could think this is going to be a dangerous thing for other developers to emulate, and are they going to half-ass it? We have to wait and see until it comes out. But honestly, this demo really sold me, and I think it's a good demo, and I think if they do iron out all the problems and make Midgar feel really fleshed out, then I really won't have an issue with it. The only thing is them implementing filler, them implementing meaningless side missions, and not really adding to the story, only subtracting from it just to make you waste your time and make it feel like a $60 experience. I think that's where the dangerous precedent lies. Anyway, this is Renegade Operative signing off. What did you guys think about the Final Fantasy VII demo? Comment below, let me know right now, and tell me, are you still looking forward to the game despite the game being a multi-part venture? Sign off in the comments, let me know, and once again, take care of yourselves and each other. Peace out and see you later. Stay safe from the stupid coronavirus, because I know that's going around. Wash your hands, kill the germs, and remember, wash your ass, do all that. Stay away from sickly people, stay away from crowds, be safe, people, because the Wuhan virus is here and honestly is getting crazy out here. I want to wish all my viewers and all the people that watch me just, you know, stay safe, people, please.